We are live and
Oh
coming
my goodness,
to you
the nerves kick
from.
in there.
Yeah. You got stage fright. The FTSE, interesting actually. I've just been listening to the news just to kind of keep everybody up to date. Interesting session going so far with the FTSE. We got Asian stocks moving to the downside. I'll quickly show you the FTSE unless you've got anything pending.
No, I'm actually in a couple of trades, but it's not going to do anything. I can't get you guys in there, so
Okay, all right. Well,
nothing
we'll
goes.
come to those trades as well in a bit.
Sure.
But yeah, let me show you the FTSE. The FTSE has just broken to the downside now. I just want to check this level. Yeah, interesting session in Asia. Asia stocks are weaker this morning, right across the board, and also S&P futures came off a little bit. Quite interesting that the FTSE did not did not move to the downside until this morning, because I'll show you what happened with the S&P overnight. And usually the futures would be quite susceptible to what happens in America when that session comes on, but that didn't happen. Here's the break. Here's the break to the downside with the FTSE. Now that does lead us back to these lows. Still not a hugely attractive price down here, but it might be all we're going to get. I mean, it's the only thing, just to kind of let you know about the world events that are going on right now. The only negative that we got going on is that North Korea are retesting some sort of ballistic weapon. I'm not sure what it is. Don't even know whether the word ballistic's right, but it sounds menacing enough to use. So yeah, there's some testing going on that may spook investors, or the holiday. That's the only other thing. I mean, there's two reasons that this market could move to the downside. This 73.43 looks like a probable area that it would get caught up in. That's around about 60 odd pips from where we are now, and it may be all we get, as I say. And if I bring in a longer term chart here, then we can see what that means. Sorry, 73.43. 73.43 leads us down to around about this point here. So it just brings us back to these lows, which is an obvious place for a trade to the upside. As I say, not particularly attractive. We really wanted it down here, but that's another 60-point grab. So I'm not sure whether it's going to get there or not. And it's going to depend on the drivers. But China GDP came out again very, very positively. Germany had some slightly weaker numbers. Let me just double check that stuff actually, because when I was looking overnight, I remember seeing that there was green on the screen everywhere from Europe. See the Aussies.
Yesterday, the Chinese numbers were good.
Yeah, the Chinese numbers were good. Yeah, 6.4.
The Aussie numbers today were good. So,
Yeah, so it's really
well,
kind of.
not so good. Up and down. I'll explain that later.
Okay, let's have a look at that in a second. The numbers from the UK economy were a little tepid. Is probably the best way to describe them. CPI was still at 1.9%. That is around about the 2% range. So, if the Bank of England were considering interest rate rises, that wouldn't be a bad number. PPI output wasn't particularly healthy at all, so that doesn't suggest that the economy is doing that well. And RPI not that important, but so there's quite a few there. But this I thought was quite the interesting one. Trade balance from the euro was really healthy, and Italian trade balance really healthy as well. So there's nothing there that would suggest anything to the downside. There were some German numbers which I'm not that up on because it's not here, but I did read something about the German numbers being pretty weak. Maybe this will give us some kind of clearer sense of direction. German flash PMIs and everything else. We'll see what the purchasing managers index is going to do. That's really important because that does show us what kind of growth we do have, what kind of investment we do have in the Eurozone and the Euro bloc. So retail sales from the UK also quite key when it comes down to the state of the economy. So maybe little bits and pieces that we get today, but no numbers have been bad. I've just seen positive right across the board. The Chinese and America trade deal looks like it's going to be signed off in the first week of May. They're trying to schedule it, not signed off, sorry, agreed by the first week of May and signed by the end of May.
A lot of
So
water can go under the bridge before then.
yes, it could, but I suppose because of the positivity that we've seen out there, is that enough to kind of bring this market to its knees? Because nothing is bringing it down, is it? And it's not like we're after anything significant, but just some bad news would be quite good, just to kind of give us an area that we can trade, because there's just nothing. But possibly the holiday, maybe there's a bit of profit taken up here because of the holiday coming up. I did say as well that that Japan are going to be away for about 10 days, but I don't think that's until next week. Oh yeah, the sell in May, walk away. That doesn't sound very likely when you get the prospect of a deal being completely ratified and potentially signed in May. So and one other thing, there was something from the Fed that said that it's pushed recession back to 2021. So there's just nothing bad.
Push recession back. What does that mean?
Yeah, I mean it's a strange term, isn't it? Because that they obviously the business cycle is the businesses go through specific cycles, and those cycles kind of involve a point where when employment is I guess at its peak, and I'm obviously not telling necessarily explain this to you, but the listeners. But when employment is at its peak, the next thing that has to happen really is for the businesses to have to raise wages to attract more employment. And as they raise wages, then their top line starts to suffer. And when the top line suffers, the profit line suffers. And when the profit line suffers, that's when we start to go into the next phase of the business cycle. So that's why they predict, recessionary problems. Actually, you know what? As I'm talking, I wonder whether there may well be then a hint from the Fed of raising interest rates. If they're sort of like saying that recession has been well and truly kind of curbed until 2021, then does that start to increase the probability that they feel safe enough to start raising interest rates? Because it certainly doesn't suggest a loosening of monetary policy, which has been some of the aspect of why we've seen such a huge rally. That the Chinese numbers were probably positive because of some stimulus that was added into the Chinese economy, which is why the interesting thing really with that was that the market didn't really rally significantly off the back of those numbers, and I thought it would do, because if we go back to the start of one of these legs, it was due to the Chinese numbers, and I can't remember what exactly they were, but they were quite significant numbers over a weekend, and I woke up to those numbers and off, but we've had good numbers again, and the market hasn't taken off. The market is easing, if anything, just to the downside. This is an interesting kind of pattern, but I suspect this really is the line in the sand here. It looks pretty good. Not really clear touches, but it certainly looks like it's broken to a degree, broken a pattern to a degree. So it looks like it may well have broken down. And if that's the case, then we probably will see some easing, but it doesn't seem to be based too much on fundamentals. And the last thing I just wanted to say on this is that we had a break to the upside kind of late in the session yesterday. This is the close of the FTSE. The FTSE closed down here. And usually, as I say, the baton would then get passed to whatever happens in the United States. But the FTSE continued to rally right up until the close. And if we bring in the S&P, the S&P is here. That's not what was going on yesterday in the S&P. This is the close of the S&P. In actual fact, it was here. These bars here were the close in the S&P. Now the S&P also has broken to the downside. It's broken down looks like a bit of a kind of scruffy M topping pattern. So the S&P is easing as well. right across the board. We've seen the Nikkei struggle for upside this morning, and the Dow futures also moving to the downside. So China 50 struggling for direction, really, I suppose. We're almost back to the levels, but it looks like it's testing a breakdown level. So I think some easing today looks a lot more likely than we've seen for some time. The big question is, can it ease enough to give us the price that we really want? And you've got to say at this stage it's unlikely, because I just don't see, or I can't foresee what the catalyst is that would be strong enough to throw this down, unless, as I say, that we've got the possibility of a holiday in tow.
I think that's quite pertinent. I don't expect that. Well, we've got 13 minutes before the open, and I don't expect there's going to be too many traders around after lunchtime today. So I'd say there could well be some profit taking on.
Yeah, and you see, this is the only thing that I've got to grab onto with this this story about Kim Jong-un, because it's possible that if there's some nervousness in the world, then people would be less likely to want to hold for 4 days while that potentially calms down. It's not a huge story by any stretch, but it is there.
Well, I think Christo was sweating on this the other day. I think I remember him putting in the questions box that he can't wait for that to happen. Well, guess what, Christo? You may have made it happen.
It's down to you.
Yeah, we'll put it on your shoulders, mate.
Yeah. So that's where we're at anyway, with the FTSE.
All right.
Yeah, let's talk about your trades, and we'll come back to other bits and pieces. Bitcoin is certainly interesting. Held above its 5,000 level, it's retested an area, and it's gone up from there. So Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Ripple all on a bit of a tear as well. So let's have a look at those. Let's have a look at the dollar yen and the euro and the pound as well during the show, and see if we can get any sense of clarity from any of those particular pairs.
Well, dollar yen is the one that I'm in.
Oh, great. Okay, let's have a look at your chart then, because that one's interesting.
So let's do that. Hopefully you can see my screen. I can't log in.
Yeah, I can see it.
To the show, which is kind of frustrating. So my bias all week, and probably for the last 2 weeks, was to see price go to this level here. Yet, that said, we haven't had a decent retracement. Okay, we've had zero retracement, which is a term that our good friend Roy likes to use. And that generally, if you're in a strong move, will break to the upside. So, and that's all well and good. But that said, we did put in a bearish engulfing bar yesterday, very early yesterday, and now we've put in a lower high. So I traded that lower high this morning, and I've already banked, so I'm not in any great risk here. And my second, there's 3 levels here. First level's there, where we banked. Second level's here, where we'll bank again, and third level's here, where we'll close the trade, if we're fortunate enough, of course, for that to go down. It's still not my bias, but I certainly saw the opportunity to trade to the daily, to the weekly pivot here rather, and that would have given me a decent amount of profit to bank, regardless of what the third session did. And it would be at that point that I would be looking for signs that it was going to go long. It could just go short here, no problem, and that's a definite possibility. We're coming off a strong level after all, and I think I've got a decent each way bet here. So we're hanging on to that at the moment. There's nothing left to do except wait until we either A, get to TP2, where we'll take profit and start looking for the longs, and really at that point we'll move our stops to entry, so we'll be in a win-only situation, and that could be good. So that's dollar yen. Am I really expecting it to go short? Look, not yet, really. I've always thought that this area here was the better level of the two, and that's where I expect price to go ultimately. But if we can get a nice little pullback to the weekly pivot, for instance, where we've got our second take profit level, I'd be happy with that. And if it keeps going, then I'd be happier with that. But we'll see what happens, I suppose. What do you think, mate? Where do you see this going, if anywhere?
You know what, mate? I really like this, because the thing is, if we are in this if we are in this area where there's some profit taking going on, then this is the perfect chart, isn't it? Or the perfect pair to be trading in that particular direction. So let's have a look at it. I mean, I haven't really kind of properly analysed. It was, well, I mean, that's a lovely breakdown as well. Okay, let's check it out. Okay, obvious bounce point, certainly.
Yep.
Strange pattern to name. That area would be the area that that I would suspect we'd come back into. I'm going to bring in. Actually, I won't bring in the pivots just yet. I want to just have a look at this on longer term time frames. This area here is also going to hold things up a little bit. There's not a lot of room to the downside there, is there? But
there's enough to get some money.
There's certainly enough to get some money, yeah. I'd like to see it on the trend line. I mean, I think that's looks like 67 would be yeah, that looks to me like the most obvious area right now, around about 111.70.
Yeah, my second take profit is at 111.66.
Yeah, I'd say somewhere in that area. Let's have a look at this on the detailed chart as well. Yeah, looks good, mate. I mean, it looks to me like that's where the buyers will start to kick back in around about the weekly pivot. So, yeah, 111.70, 111.66. I completely see that, and I would agree with you as well on that as well. If it's to break down lower than that, then the trend line would be the most sensible point, and I don't know at this stage. Yeah, that actually leads us pretty much back into the weekly pivot. Maybe not.
Yeah, it's about the same area. A little bit lower, maybe.
That looks like a good trade, though.
Yeah, we'll see.
Because it certainly appears that, you know, there is some profit taking going on. The big question with it is how deep it would, you know, like to come down. And these areas are obvious, and the buyers are still well and truly in charge of this. It is the question of you know, do people just want to take profit, you know, and if they do, then they're probably less likely to then start generating too many new trades. So it might actually dip a little bit lower than is the obvious point, and it might even kind of create some sort of buy signal here. But I think a seller's day would be wise today, and I wouldn't really, even if it came down to these levels, and the same with the FTSE, if it comes down to specific levels, I'm not 100% sure I'd be that comfortable buying today anyway. Specifically, if there are sellers in the market from the Asian session, the sellers then kick back in for the UK session, and considering what we saw yesterday with the S&P, we may well get the sellers back in play from that. I think looking for some downside, and if you can find a downside trade which you've managed to do, then holding on for the day would be the way I'd want to play it. I'd probably want to close positions no matter where it was by the end of the session. You know, if there's some profit there, because by Tuesday, you know, if nothing major has happened, then we're probably straight back in the saddle again and charging back to the upside. So it looks like a seller's day, certainly, and I will check the barometers as we go and see if I can get any clarity, you know, as we come out the traps. But the yen strengthening, the dollar selling off against the yen. Let's have a quick check on gold as well. The S&P futures looking weaker, the Nikkei looking future, China 50 looking weaker, the FTSE looking weaker. It certainly appears like a seller's day today. And I wanted to check, what was the other thing I just said? Gold, isn't it? Let's have a look at gold, which is the one commodity or risk off option which seems to be moving in the opposite direction. Now, where do I put gold? There it is.
Soon be moving in the opposite direction.
Yeah, gold has not managed to catch a bid at all, is it? It just
no. If you look at the daily chart, you know it's broken the neckline of what really is a fairly obvious head and shoulders.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's a quite a complex one, but you're absolutely right. It's certainly there. If we consider this whole area the right shoulder. Now, let's just have a look what that would lead us measured move-wise. That might be a little bit ambitious. Let's have a look. Yeah, it leads us back down to these lows down here.
Pretty good, doesn't it?
It actually does. That looks like a pretty good level to aim for down there. Let's check it on the longer term time frames. Yeah, it looks great actually. Looks like a proper test point, doesn't it? After a overextended rally. So gold certainly does look weak here. Actually, Paul was rightly saying that when we pushed to the downside here and we got this holding bar, but then the next week we got this bar where it wasn't able to continue moves to the upside, that was a fairly sure bearish signal, and that's proved to be the case. Let's just double check what the setup was on gold. Actually, pretty difficult to get this, I think. When I kind of bring this onto a 4-hour chart, because of this move to the downside, well, it was difficult to get the inception of this trend, but you could have traded this area. You know, when it broke to the downside, you could have traded that area with profit taken here, and then you know as it starts to run, then I suppose stops would be at break even and just trailing these highs now to the downside. But the only way you could probably trade this to the downside now is if it retests up here or certainly retests this high here. Then I think there's a trade to the downside that is on. But aside from that, this gold certainly looks like profit taking's coming into play. So there's no protection being held with gold. Certainly, the protection looks like it's going to be taken on with the yen. Let's just watch the open with the FTSE. See what's to happen here.
Oil's on a downhill run as well as of yesterday.
Yeah, again, interesting, isn't it? Because the tear in oil has been quite significant, and it always looks with these things that any moves in the opposite direction would probably be gobbled up again at some point and just create some sort of buying opportunity, and that's what I'd be looking at with all this stuff really, but probably more on Tuesday than anything else. Now the FTSE probably would need to break to the downside to prove that there is a little downtrend starting, but great place to sell. Stops at the highs. With all the other news and data out there, looks pretty good. But the other way we can just use it is to see whether it actually does create some downside, just so we could get in long eventually. So yeah, just a bit more comfortable really right now, mate. That actually something might be happening, and we may well get an opportunity to trade this market.
Okay. The other trade I've got in the market currently was a news trade, actually.
Always like those.
Which was, yeah, a bit of a toss of the coin, always. But where's my screen? Can you see my screen?
No.
Nor can I. Makes it awkward. Let me try again. Oh, there's my chart. Okay. You should be able to see it.
No, you can't see it yet. No, it's just the blue man at the minute.
Oh, okay, I could see my chart there for a minute, but no longer the case. Let me try again. Right, there and there. Right,
There we go. That's better.
Okay, so we had Aussie employment news come out this morning, and I had this set up on the 4-hour chart. So classic false break setup for me, where we've been above the highs, set a new high, back below, and retested the new high, or the old highs rather, and the broken trend line at the same time. So it was around news time, or maybe an hour or so, an hour or 2 hours out of news time. So I thought, I can't really place an order under here with the news pending. What I'll do is I'll just go in at the market here, and very, very small stake because it's risky, and let this ride and see what happens. And if we get it going the right way, we'll have a decent old trade out of it. As it turns out, the news was a double banger, where the jobs created was fairly good. In fact, it was very good. And the unemployment rate was as per forecast, which was a rise, mind you. So that shouldn't be good for the currency. But on the back of China's news yesterday, I suppose the balance is giving us a line ball, which is pretty much what we're seeing here. I can't see any reason not to stay in the trade right now, to be fair. So I will, and I've got very little invested in it to be fair. So I'll just see how this pans out. But at the end of the day, what I was trading here was my strategy. I just couldn't trade it properly because of the news pending. So I kind of found another way to do it, and currently I'm just at break even here. But I'd really be inclined, if you like, and I am inclined to actually add to the position. I don't know if I will. It's probably the same trade as dollar yen actually. So I think I've got enough invested against the yen at the moment, or against the dollar. Sorry, invested in the yen at the moment. So I don't think I need to be gung ho here and add to any risk that I'm taking. So I think I'll just leave it as it is, and leave it at, if the yen strengthened, I'm in a pretty good posse for the rest of the day. We shall see. What else is going on? Cable. Cable's come down to this support level, which of course I'll go out to the daily chart and just inspect it. Is really the bottom of this range that we've been suffering, if you like. Well, apart from a couple of false breaks, we've been in this 130 to 131 zone seemingly forever, certainly for most of the year, as I say, with a couple of breakouts all over the place. But you'd have to say it doesn't look like breaking out anytime soon to the high side. And we were discussing this yesterday as well, and thought we had an ascending triangle here on Tuesday, which broke to the low side, not the high side. And I don't know that I'm convinced it's going to go any further, to be fair, which is kind of weird when we're talking about if we go into the profit taking mode. Who's taking profit here? I don't see anybody who's gaining. It's just a sideways currency pair at the moment, and I just don't see that changing anytime soon. So that said, we're at the bottom of the range. I'd probably be looking to trade at the top of the range, but who's going to buy it is the other question that I'm struggling with. And if I look at this chart, I think, well, goodness gracious me, how can I get any direction here? It doesn't make any sense to me to trade, frankly. So I think I've just got to leave cable alone until something really happens. So it's got a bit of shape about it. There's absolutely no shape to the cross at all at the moment. I mean, you could argue that, you know, we're in a downtrend, and I suppose I can't argue against that, but I can certainly tell you that we've got a double bottom sitting here and maybe a higher low. So yeah, tough. And I think I'll just leave it alone, mate. I think I'll just put it to bed and say no pound trades for me today. Done, dusted. Euro dollar. Now, euro dollar's also in the frustrating bin, but for a different reason. The reason is not that it's not moving, because it has moved, and even in trend fashion, but it keeps coming back. It won't break out. A little breakout here of the monthly pivot came back, retested it, and yesterday it looked, for all intents and purposes, as though this was off and gone, and 113.60 was the next target. But then it came back, straight back to the daily pivot, and that's what we're straddling thus far today. It's all about the daily pivot. We've come back underneath the trend line. We refuse to go back above it. I just can't work this out. Where are we headed? You know, why didn't we break through here? If the bulls, as they seem to be, were on the rantan, they came back to the daily pivot, as I said, to just medium level support and really medium level resistance. I said this yesterday. We got and there were obvious, and still are obvious, places to actually get in and out of here, I suppose, but there's nothing available in terms of profit. So it's obvious to get in here and go long, but you know, unless you're taking profit here, which I guess you should be, then there's nothing available because it just pulls straight back. Same on a couple of other currencies. It was obvious that you'd be looking for longs at that point, but really, where are they taking you? Not taking you too far at all. And I guess that goes to the point that I was talking about I think I was talking about on Monday, maybe even Tuesday, where this is a market for mine to just get in and out very, very quickly. You know, put something in the bank as soon as you possibly can, and don't take any more risk. Leave a position open, no problem, but you know, I'm seeing in all charts, intraday wise, we're going straight to resistance and then bang, straight to resistance, bang, straight to resistance, bang, 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 bang. And that, you know, that's happening all the time. If you're in a long, and you have been for quite some time, as I know some people have, then you're probably doing okay, but gee whiz, it's taken a long time.
Yeah, do you know, I know somebody that entered this long. I don't know whether they've taken profit, but I know their take profit area was 1.130, I think. No, 1.1330, and it didn't quite get there. So it was about 4 or so pips off.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's so frustrating.
Yeah,
it seems to be turning at. Well, the resistance level here is now established, but before that, why would it change there? I suppose there's a little bit of a lump here, but
yeah. Well, the other thing is when I look at the euro, if you look on the the daily chart,
yeah, there's a level there, that's for sure.
Yeah, there's a level there, yeah. Because the tails not so much, you know.
My point is it was through the level.
Yes, and it just didn't hold, did it?
And couldn't go any further.
Yeah. Which is, I suppose, you know, what I'm talking about with the things like the yen and maybe the FTSE, even though FTSE's rallying again. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about with those particular charts. Will we get a little bit beyond you know, points where it could get caught, and then actually prove that that was they are eventually the points by stretching again to the upside. So you know, the tails are going to play a part in this, aren't they? Because it's all about the close, and the close just hasn't managed to get above. And as you said before, if the euro isn't able to catch some, to find a bit of footing here, it's in big trouble.
Yeah, something else is in play, and it's deadly.
Mm. Mm.
Interestingly, and I should have looked at the daily chart. If you were to draw a channel from the latest swing low, which there, you put a channel up with your trend line, you will see that we've actually come off the top of there.
Mm. It's about there, isn't it?
The daily bar from yesterday, it's fairly substantial in terms of size. My channel's a little bit deeper than yours, but it's sitting bang on the pivots, and that's where it becomes frustrating, because that's a reversal bar of some substance,
Yeah.
If it had closed below the pivots, I think I'd be all over that for short, but it's just in an awkward spot, and I think that's, and no surprise really, that is something that's common at the moment, because the markets are not extending or overextending. They're hitting resistance and pulling back, hitting support and bouncing. The pivots are very close together for that reason, and therefore they're in the road all the time.
Yeah, we have actually right across the board kind of seen just a lack of real movement, haven't we? I mean, there's direction out there, but just not direction that seems to be taking any true form.
Look, I suppose, I'm not expecting it today, but I suppose there will come a time where this market's just going to release. There's going to be a big run, but it certainly doesn't look like it's anytime soon.
No, it doesn't. And you have to kind of wonder whether those the algo trading kind of comes into play, and it just be a case of something triggers it in and then just stops, just kind of get taken out very quickly.
Yeah, and I'm perfectly okay with that, because you can pretty much see where the algos are when you do go into a range. And if you're prepared to trade the top and off the top and the bottom, and a range, that channel to me is a range.
Yeah.
If you're prepared to trade off the top and off the bottom of it, you probably do okay.
Yeah.
And it's all in the timing, of course. You've just got to wait for the signals, and that's hence I'm in dollar yen today for that reason. I've waited and finally I got a signal that says, okay, maybe it's time, and it's still a maybe. That's not a definite, but I think if you're prepared to do that, that's probably a reasonable way to be thinking at the moment.
Yeah.
Top, bottom to top.
Yeah.
Because the market is in that kind of mood.
Yes, it absolutely is. I suppose something similar has just happened here with the FTSE. The FTSE's just managed to continue extending so far this morning. It hasn't been affected too heavily by the Asian session as yet, as we see further upside kind of happening. And as you say, it's the only place that you can really trade this is along maybe along this line now. The hourly is going to be the time frame to trade this on, though, because we want to see whether we actually get some sort of reversal here, and if we do, then that will have a very strong suggestion of moving to the downside. And I am looking downside here just because I can't stomach the upside. Can't stomach getting in. It didn't take off, interestingly, when it did break through the upper levels. So there's certainly enough weakness up here to kind of keep this subdued. And the other chart, which I think is also interesting, is this weekly. We get this kind of hanging man spinning top look about the weekly chart, and so far this week we've managed to kind of keep things moving to the upside. Maybe we end up with another spinning top, but if it takes out these highs and holds above those highs, then really we're kind of we're moving up another level. And again, it moving up another level before any significant retracement, any retracement of any type. Never mind that it's significant, but any retracement of any type, and it's very unusual to see areas that are broken through and just untested. And I'll go right back to, well, let's go back to the start of the charts. This is an area.
I'll show you a line that's been retested very shortly when you're done.
Yes. Okay. This area here, no, I suppose, at least the bar came down to test it, but we didn't really get some true price that tested it. But this area here, not really tested, I suppose, but eventually it comes back to that point. So this could just be the case that we might just be waiting a long time before the FTSE does come back. It does happen, but it's very rare. You can see here another area that was tested. This area here, probably actually it's maybe a breakthrough there, was eventually tested. Gets a bit sticky up there anyway. So all these areas were retested. So it's unusual to find a market which isn't retested, which hasn't tested areas, and really we got the same here, no test, and the same here, just no test. Is it just no test of where it's come from? So 2 in a row, one in itself is fairly unusual, not massively, but it's fairly unusual. But to get 2 areas that in one trend that don't get tested, even the strongest moves here, strong moves to the downside, even this area gets tested and then goes. This strong move to the upside, yeah, I mean it didn't get tested, but eventually it tests and bounces. But yeah, just fascinating really that the kind of environment that we're in is so unbelievably confident that the profit taking just isn't coming into play. And
not all, it seems to be on the currencies.
What the profits are? The tests are happening, are they?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. Show me what you were gonna say about that.
Now this is a retest. Is that what you call a retest?
The line.
Look at that.
Yes.
Not one close below that line. Not one.
Yeah.
In all of those bars.
Yeah.
So what's going on? You reckon they're not respecting?
I tell you what, that looks like a buy area, doesn't it now?
It definitely does. But again, the pivots are banging your road. What do you do?
Yeah. Yeah, the pivots haven't been particularly useful recently on some of these charts.
It's also tested the breakout level as well, and that's where it's at. It's at that confluence right now.
Yeah. Well, the pound, it's kind of it's kind of almost gone back to normal, isn't it? Almost gone back to some normality of actually trading some of the data rather than worrying about Brexit. Things are very quiet. Yeah, things are quiet. Because everybody's taking a break, and
yeah, I wonder if we're going to see anything today. Frankly,
yeah,
it's really quiet, really quiet. But again, we're at the bottom of the range. This is doing the same thing. It's just riding that line, isn't it? Just riding it up.
Yes.
Terribly difficult to trade.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't look like there's much out there. Let's have a quick look at the Aussie, because that was one that you were talking about earlier on.
Yeah, look, it's hard to read now. From a technical point of view, it's sitting there as a false break, yet refuses to come down. It still wants to try those highs, and that's driven by, I guess, the frontline number today, which was, and yesterday's China news, of course, which was the employment figure, which I think was 20-odd thousand jobs created or something, if serves me correctly.
Yeah.
But that's not the key figure. The key figure is the one below, and that is the unemployment rate. That's the one you need to look at, and it's climbed. When I say climbed, it's ticked back to 5%, and that's not good. That was on a downward spiral, downward trend, and now it's ticked back up to the 5%. So I can't believe the market will read that as good. So to me, I'm expecting to see the Aussie come off today.
Oh, really? Yeah. I mean, it's all of this stuff's a bit overdue, isn't it?
Yeah, look, definitely due for retracements. And I'd have to say, that the retracements on the Aussie have been a bit shallow because, and the euro is the same. They're retracing to a level, no question about that. In this case, it was the weekly pivot. And I said this yesterday. Obvious, euro same. But it's not the A level. The A level's the trend line. Here's where you want it. You want it down here. And you want it down here.
Yeah.
Yet it refuses to come back there. It will, don't worry about that. It'll happen. And hopefully today's the day. But it's not doing it. It's not doing as it, I don't know about should. It's not doing as you would like it to do.
Yeah.
And this is the area you're looking for the bounce, here and here. Yet it just refuses to do it, which is disappointing because you missed the buy opportunity.
Yeah.
I mean, as I said yesterday, this is a B level opportunity, and if you can find a way in, happy days. In particular, if you've traded that little bar there, you're a genius. But here's where I want to get long, and I did say yesterday, look, go long here for sure, but don't put everything on. Wait till it gets to here to load up. That's generally how I like to trade it. But I couldn't find an entry here. Definitely couldn't. Same on the euro, and that's a little bit frustrating. If you're trading levels on the currency pairs, you're probably doing okay. So set a limit buy at this level, you're probably doing okay. Set a limit buy at this level, you're probably doing okay. So on the way up, it's not too bad, but it's not coming back to where I would like it to be. Why is that, Ash? Why don't they listen to me?
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? I mean, you kind of do get a little bit of random price action sometimes in markets, and this is why no strategy is fail-safe. And it will work in some environments. Some strategies work in some environments, and others work in other environments. And I wonder, whether it is, a little bit down to algorithmic trading and robot trading. I don't know. It's difficult, isn't it? But it might just be one of those phases, because I know last year the lack of trends that people experienced meant that any trend following strategies were almost redundant for long periods of time. And I guess that's what happens. The market doesn't trend all the time, or any one market doesn't trend all the time, and it's maybe that's just the phase that we're going through, that we're just not able to get anything really clean. The market is doing something unusual, and I tell you what it might be down to as well. When I think about the FTSE, it appears to me that it almost can't wait just to kind of ease back again and give some opportunities, have a bit of profit taking, but it's got no reason, because every time that it looks for a reason to take profit, the numbers come out and they're really good again. And people, it's not that people want to sell it off, it's more the fact that people, I think, are getting a little bit nervous of how fast and far it's come. It's such a short period of time that no trends like this really make people feel all that comfortable. They much prefer something which has got more recognized cyclicity to it. When things just take off, then it does feel that there is overextension, and people do get a little bit nervous because they recognize the fact that they've made a load of money very, very quickly. So do they really want to hang on and let that money disappear because they because for whatever reason, for fear or greed. But do they really want to kind of like continue to hold on to something which is already given them an amazing profit, especially considering that we've only had realistically four coming into just coming up to 4 months of the year. The FTSE 100 is and this is not the best performing market by any stretch. When you think of the S&P, is up something like 16% or something. The FTSE 100 is up around about 10%. So 10% in a year for some of these fund managers is an amazing return. Never mind over the first 4 months. So that's probably some of the reason as well, is that people aren't really sure what to do. They've kind of found themselves caught in this amazing move, and they're probably just a little bit nervous about making sure they don't give anything back.
You can imagine the brokers are being hounded. Should we sell yet? Should we sell yet?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. The market breadth this morning is a bit tepid as well from the FTSE. I've just had a quick look, and really we kind of opened up with only 45% of stocks in positive territory. None that are flat. In fact, one's just gone flat now, but that leaves 55% to the downside. So there is some evidence that that there is maybe some profit taken up here, or at least some evidence that the rally is losing just a little bit of momentum. I'll just have a quick look at trading days as well, just to see what that gives us. And we are in. What are we in? Trading day number 14, I think it would be. Well, it tends to be bullish. It tends to be bullish. 70% bullish. Trading day number 14. Number 15 tends to be very, very bearish. So it's possible that the Easter break is going to skew these numbers a little bit as well. As this moves around, we start to get a little bit more volatility actually towards the end of April. So yeah, could be that we see that. The monthly chart as well. I think this is quite significant. I'm not sure if you got my chart. Let me just make sure you see my screen.
No, I still got mine, mate.
Yeah, I think this is also quite significant. We're seeing 4 solid months in the FTSE as well. Really kind of taking us back to levels and beyond. But the month isn't done yet. Is it we came out the traps so fast this month that's another aspect to it. Not even the month has had a chance to breathe. So there's not really a point yet that we've had a has started gung ho. The shorter term time frames are really kind of gung ho, but also the month over month is fairly gung ho as well, with very little moves back down again. Weekly, that pretty much the same thing. A little bit of a rest here, but not really a true retracement. So there's really been nothing that would suggest that that there's been any room to breathe. And I think that's making things a little bit more difficult, because how do you trade this long at this in this area? The only direction that you're looking at is short, and yet you wouldn't get into the short because it's so unbelievably bullish. So you're much more likely to kind of sit and wait on this and see if the shorts actually result in a decent price to get long. And that's not for everybody. That's just sort of the general kind of attitude out there will be that these funds will just be trying to get into the market, but they can't get in up here, and they're not going to buy any puts up here because of the strong move. So they're just kind of waiting on it, which actually does again create a lack of volatility. Obviously, if your strategy allows to trade to the downside, that's completely different. But it does make things very, very difficult, doesn't it, with this? Because the only direction that you're really looking for is for the sellers to kind of come into play. But only so you can go long. Everybody's just waiting for a slightly better price to get in at.
Yep. Yeah, we're all much the same, aren't we?
And the hourly bar is just starting now to kind of form. So we knew we had to wait on this, and it's just starting to form a little bit more here. We got market breadth, as I said, 55% of stocks are in negative territory. We got a break to the downside on the S&P, a break to the downside on the Nikkei, a break to the downside on the Hang Seng, a break to the downside on the Dow. I haven't checked. A break to the downside on the dollar yen. Is that still going in the right direction?
Yeah, it's kind of just holding there at the bottom of the range. It's not doing
So
too
that's
much.
holding at the bottom of the range. We've got the DAX. The DAX is very gappy. But that's gap to the downside and continue to hold some losses into play. The Kakarot.
Have we just had news?
32. Sorry, yes, we did, didn't we? We should have had some.
Yeah, Euro's just tanked. Oof.
Let's see what it is. So it's obviously these German flash PMI. Now this was the one that last time caused the problems for the market. French flash PMI manufacturing 49.6. So that is a big miss. Euro flash services PMI actually was pretty good. Germany flash PMI was another miss, and flash services, which isn't so important for the German economy, was a slight gain. So there is some continued levels of weakness kicking into play with the German economy. So if we're thinking about the big guns, if you like, that are out there, Germany have to be one of those, and Germany's manufacturing aspect of their economy being so weak is not particularly good right across the board. So that will very, very likely now create some downside. Now, if the euro is tanking and the DAX is tanking, this really brings into play the conversation that we were having the other day about, does a currency, does the pound go down and the FTSE go up? And generally speaking, that is the case. But watch out for the DAX, because the DAX will obviously, after those kind of numbers, the manufacturing stocks will start to get a bit of a sell-off here, and the euro will also get a bit of a sell-off if that's the metric that people are focusing on, because there's a few others that I notice out there as well. So it's not always the case, that they will run in that kind of binary way. They can both move in the same direction, depending on what is forcing the move in the market at that particular time. So let's have a quick look at this trend line here. That's pretty steep, isn't it? This one's going to be too steep. Looks like that one's being watched though, doesn't it? With the DAX. And this is what looks like a rising wedge, which does have bearish connotations, and it looks like the DAX may well now start to utilize the breaks of patterns as well, and we could see the DAX kind of coming back to test these levels here.
Look at that beautiful high test bar on the top of that.
Oh. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it is, isn't it? In a kind of in a world of its own up there. And we've seen a few of those. If you kind of like have a look at when this was, that's on the 17th. Actually, a day earlier with the FTSE. Look at this weakness kind of coming into play here.
I'll just have to take this, mate. Wait a second.
No problem. So we will just we'll sit and wait on this one, but this is fairly positive for us, really. And it might just be, when we kind of looking at this, when we're going back to these numbers here, it might just be that I'd have to listen into the news, which would mean ignoring you guys, which I won't do. But it might just be that that the market is just waiting for an excuse. But if we look at this this number here, flash manufacturing PMI, last time it was at 44.1. Actually, there's a slight beat on what happened last time, but revised from 44.7. So actually, that was revised down as well. So that was revised down. They were looking for us to get back to 45.2, but 44.5. Now, if we go back to when the last release was, which was, it might not give me the date here. Let's go back to March. Actually, I was in Singapore, I think. Actually, you know what? I can find it on the chart probably a lot easier. March 22nd. German flash services was a beat, but look at what happened. German manufacturing PMI, a huge miss to the downside. That was at 9:30, so it'll show at 11:30 on these charts here. And if we go back to this here, and let's change this to a. Now, I don't know if you guys can see this on my chart down here, but this is the bar that really started to drag us to the downside. And if you look down here, that's 11:30. So it was the German manufacturing PMI last time that created the significant move down.
And look at that beautiful retest of the level as well, and bang.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Do you know what? I traded this actually. I was fortunate enough to get into this one. I was trading it a little earlier. I think I was in somewhere around here, and maybe no, it was somewhere around here actually. And the market went back to the upside, and I had to take the original trade off. But I traded this again at this point, and it did move. So that one did work out. They don't always, obviously, but that did work out. There was there was decent reason at that time to be looking for downside, and it just so happened that the German manufacturing was the catalyst. But the point that I'm making here is that it did actually cause a significant move to the downside, 200 pips to the downside. I didn't grab it all. I think I was out around about 100 pips or so, somewhere around. I think when I saw this this move here, I took profit, so maybe 160 or something.
I remember you talking about it, yeah.
You remember this one, yeah? So this one did create it last time. There was a sign and signal that was going to happen, and then we started to move. So we can't discard the fact that that this may well be a catalyst, for some decent moves back to the downside. We do have a pattern here as well. We've got a pattern that has broken. Oops. Here that has broken. We're just kind of waiting on the bar to kind of give us some kind of sense of direction. It's managing to hold on right now. It might happen before. It might start to move before. A little bit of an evening star pattern coming into play. We've got 5 minutes to wait on that one, but certainly the hourly bar giving us some sort of reversal off the back of that German manufacturing news, I think is going to be enough to start pulling this market down again. I'm not so sure where it would come to, and I'd be very doubtful that it's going to give us 200 pips. You never know, of course, but I'd be doubtful on that. But the fact that we've got some evidence before that was the driver would suggest that it could happen again.
I'm looking at the Euro charts whilst you're doing that, and that's interesting because I've never really taken much notice of those numbers. But it would appear that they certainly moved the euro and they dragged the pound down with it, which is interesting.
The pound, yes, it did, didn't it?
Yep,
that is interesting.
Isn't it amazing how technically you look back, and we said it earlier in the show, this is looking like it wants to go short, but trading it impossible for me anyway.
Yes,
certainly is. Well, actually not impossible. If you have a look at I think it was the hourly chart. No, maybe the 30-minute chart. No, I would have had to wait for this candle because it's showing a classic false break of the trend line. Absolute classic false break. But it's gone one candle too early, sorry. Need to have a retest of that trend line and haven't done it. So wouldn't have been impossible had that been the case. But where it is, or if you have a look at it, I guess on the bigger picture, you can certainly see it coming. You've got a triple top sitting there basically. So yeah, no surprise.
Yeah.
From a technical point of view, but from a news point of view, what happens next is the big question. I just see that when we were talking about it earlier on the Aussie, that we've actually come down now to the trend line that I was waiting for it to come down to. I wonder, does this create a buying opportunity? I just wonder. Certainly not now.
Oh, on the euro.
Yeah.
I don't see why not. I mean, I kind of I get your thinking on that.
And definitely there's a scalp there. If you are willing to trade a news candle, as soon as it hit the bottom of that range, you could place a long there and take profit at the weekly pivot and the monthly pivot, because it's going to retrace at some stage, that candle. I'm not advocating that. It's a very advanced way to trade, but it wouldn't be the first time I've done that.
What's interesting is that again, looking back on the euro, on the 22nd of March, when we had that the release before.
Yep.
22nd of March is just this one here. Yeah, when we had that release before, the same thing was happening to the euro. Significantly, that was the trigger that moved the market to the downside, and that's the one thing that would keep me out of the euro after this particular number. I'm not saying
22nd. I traded that.
Oh, you did?
You traded. We both must have. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I was in Singapore, so we wouldn't have conversed on this particular one.
Conspiring, no.
So you traded the euro short.
I'll show you. Yeah. You can see my entry there, and you can see the reason why. That is the 22nd, isn't it? Oh, yeah. No, it might be the 1st. Might be the 21st. No, that'd be the 22nd, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
There. So I was actually playing a double cross of the monthly pivot.
Yes.
And that candle took me in.
I see. Yeah. I can see that. I can see that. Well, that would be the thing that would that would be the only thing that would be a little bit off-putting, if you like, because of what it did before. I'd like to see what the velocity of the move was before in comparison to what it is now, because it is, certainly weaker, but it's a little bit tepid, isn't it? It's not like coming back again to the FTSE 100. The FTSE 100 is struggling really to kind of absolutely tank, but maybe not.
Interesting. We're not a million miles from that level either, are we? And I can see it confidently.
Well, the original level where it came down from
the last month.
No, we're not. No, it's the test point. And yes, that is an interesting point actually. That news may well be the catalyst to get us back to where we were before when that news came out.
I'm seeing this, and I'm seeing this, and I'm thinking, back up here, retest, bingo. Wow. Oh, Angus, go away.
He might just be putting his 2 penn'orths. He's thinking.
Don't do it, not yet.
Yeah. Hold firm.
Yeah, patient. Yeah.
He's Scottish, that Angus, isn't he?
Well, the name is. He's an Australian cattle dog.
Yeah. So it's Braveheart. Hold. Yeah. So yeah. Well, I think that's quite interesting and certainly something to put in your back pocket. Everybody should be putting that in their back pocket, because when we see trends from the chart, we are also seeing trends on the news, and I think this proves it quite well. It's quite a good quite a good illustration of when you start to kind of like get your arsenal of news that makes the difference. Then this actually kind of provides you something, you know, to go away with.
I've got a frozen screen on the YouTube channel. I don't know whether that's
No, it's all good, mate. It's all good. Euro down, Ben. Yeah. I would suspect Euro down.
That's
I think.
Ben was telling me.
Yes. Euro down, for DAX down, FTSE down. This could be our down day. Oh, finally, we could get our down day. Now we've got a catalyst. We've got you know, a few different reasons now that could provide it. Nothing hugely significant. It's not like we've got you know, a North Korean issue going on, or we got Donald Trump kind of deciding to pull out of a deal. But we do have something to go on. UK stocks are currently trading in negative territory. Actually, no, they're around just about negative territory. 45% to the upside. There's a couple that are flat, which is leaving around about 52 to the downside. So there's slightly negative breadth going on out there. We've got really highs that are now struggling to move beyond. And we also have some indicators which suggest that this market needs to take a bit of a breath. Now, it's all dependent on where that exhalation of breath comes down to. But the interesting point that you make, Jeff, is that I wonder, does it bring us back down to the point where, I mean, what beautiful symmetry that would be. That it brings us down to a level, and it was also a point in time that that the market had to get through before. So
look, it wouldn't surprise me one bit. In fact, I expect those things. You know, once you recognise what the level is and where it came from, what it means.
Yeah.
You can find a way back there. I believe, absolutely.
Yeah. So let's talk about quickly the euro short, because if the euro is to go short, then what was your phrase you used, Jeff?
Which one, mate?
When you said if it doesn't hold up here, then
something else is happening.
No, it was a word you used.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, mate. Doesn't hold up here. What? No, sorry.
No, it started with S.
Did it?
Yeah, and it finishes with T.
We're deep in the shit.
You didn't even use the word deep in. You were just straight to the point, straight down, and this is what we might have. Then absolutely, the point here is if the euro does not hold up, then buy.
Yeah, buy euro.
Buy.
I'm not seeing that. I'm really not seeing that. I'm actually seeing a very interesting buying opportunity here, I think.
Yeah.
What else is happening today? See, that's not a big number. It's not a big number that was printed. We've got retail sales on the dollar. That's probably the Carney speaking, or he spoke yesterday, didn't he? Okay. I think I'm in a good frame of mind here for euro buy, mate.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've got to see the signal, of course. I won't just trade the level.
Yeah.
But what I'll be looking for so I love this trend line. Beautiful bounces, regular and very, 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 very much on point. And this one here is as well. So if I were to see, have you got my screen?
Yeah. Oh, no.
Yeah. Okay. If we were to get consolidation at the bottom of this range, which is, I don't think we have got my screen. Yeah, we have. Okay. So consolidation here, then back above the two pivots and the trend line, and a retest of same, I couldn't help myself but go long there. Now, the alternate view of that, of course, still the same trend line, still the same level. If this closes here, or even here, and then pulls back to to the confluence area but doesn't come back above it, different story. Then we're deep in the SHIT. So that's kind of where I'm at with this, but I'm favouring upside because the cycle's still there. Higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. If this is it's higher low than that one, right? Forget this little fella here. It's a higher low than that one. So that's where I'm at. I guess if that's taken out, again, what I've just said, if we close down here and retest, it's a different ball game, and the bears are going to have a picnic. Could be a teddy bear's picnic if this level breaks. But
yes, I think you're absolutely. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. The interesting thing with these numbers is that it is a miss, but it is actually slightly better than last time.
Yep, that's why I don't think it's such a big deal.
Hold on a minute, is it better than last time?
No, it's the same, wasn't it? I can't remember.
Worse than last time. Oh no, hold on a minute. Am I in the wrong month? Yeah, I'm in the wrong month. Yes, it is. It is better than last time. Just a shade though. I mean, 44.5 from 44.1.
Yeah, it's not a big deal for mine. I don't see it as a big deal.
Yeah, well, let's see what the rest of the health is today. Euro Flash, Euro Manufacturing. That was a miss last time as well. That could actually pair it a little bit. It could balance it out a little bit if Flash PMIs come out positive. The FTSE 100 is still climbing slowly to the downside. Somewhere around about 73.8, 73.88 currently on the futures, which is slightly weaker. Market breadth is pretty solidly now in the bears' favour. Looking at around about 60% of stocks are trading negative. So it certainly appears at this point that that the down day is on his way, mate. Anyway,
yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I mean, when it comes to the euro, would you toy with the idea of maybe holding out on the trade of that one until the the Easter break?
If it were to be a short, yes. If it were to be a long, no.
Okay.
I would take the long if it sets.
Yeah.
But if I wouldn't take the short.
Yeah. Okay. 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 So no orders yet. You just waiting to see what happens with that. Just want to see a little bit more detail.
I'd best give you a reason why I wouldn't take the short. I suppose I shouldn't make the statement without backing it up.
Yeah.
And why I wouldn't is pretty much because of this level here. This level here for mine could give us a certainly it's DS2 number one, and it's also the level that was broken to get us into the bull mode, right? The inverted head and shoulders. So it was the neckline that was broken. Got the retest with that candle there. That was that news candle. I can't remember what it was. Where I only got a TP1. And then if we come back to here again, I think it will hold for a second or third time really before it goes too much lower. Certainly without a major reason. And I don't think we've seen a major reason to that. On the other side of the things, if we see the bears give up here and we see price back in this area, then this trend continues for mine. The bulls are still in charge. So that's why I'd trade it long, but I wouldn't trade it short.
Yeah. So
hey guys, last night I left them with a few ideas.
Yeah.
I think Aussie CAD was the one I wanted to take a look at. Aussie CAD we were looking to trade short if price got, we had a trend line here. If price got back below the trend line and retested it, well, exactly that happened, and we got a trade out of it. Now, as it turns out, you would have to have been quite clever to take full advantage of it. But there's an exit point. You had to get out there, right? You had to take profit there. But as soon as you did, it was pretty much gone. Well, not as soon as you did. In fact, it lasted until today in the news. You were still in the trade. But that worked out okay. So I'm hoping that you guys in the show take note of that. It doesn't have to be when things are looking in the opposite direction. You don't have to be thinking, oh, this has got to keep going long, because it can very, very easily turn around and give you an opportunity, as it did yesterday on Aussie CAD. There were a couple of others. I think Aussie Yen was another one. That took its time and didn't set up, but that's looking okay now. That's looking as though it's wanting to go lower, and my target is in view. Dollar Yen's trying its little heart out to get down there as well. That would be good, but at the moment it's still held up by this level. Still got a little bit of work to do with that one.
Yeah.
As far as the rest of the day, mate, I think that euro is probably the only way I want to go. I'm already short the Aussie Yen, already short Dollar Yen. I don't think I need to do any more.
Yeah, I mean, at least there's some volatility with the euro, isn't there? So it might actually drag us in a direction and give a decent price move.
Yep.
Okay, so let's just finish up with a quick check on Bitcoin and see what's going on with that, because that rally has held so far. Last week, at the end of last week, did create a bar which would suggest some downside, but so far today we're not really seeing that filter through, and Bitcoin, after seeing some levels tested down here, is just managing to hold up. So Bitcoin and XRP. XRP is a bit trickier the way I see it. It's come back to a level here and managed to hold and bounce, but possibly could be starting to find some resistance up here again. I think if you're keen on XRP, somewhere around about that line there would be, I think, a decent place to try and get in. And Ethereum's the same. So all of them are showing that they've started to move in the right direction. And when we look at Ethereum again, decent daily hold. It came back down again. It's retested an area. Looks to me, by all intents and purposes, that there could well be a trend that's starting now on these. Hasn't tested that point, but the fact that it's held above this area is pretty positive. So it looks to me like the cryptocurrency market is starting to just catch some sort of bid here, mate, and there might be some confidence coming back into the cryptos anyway. I don't particularly like that weekly bar. This one looks good. A much cleaner test on Ripple, on XRP. Much nicer test on this one. And as I say, if it holds above this level, then I think it's got a decent shout to continue its move to the upside, and maybe, just maybe, the crypto world starts to kick back into life again. Plenty of room to the upside if this is going to go. That's Ethereum. We've just seen XRP, and same with Bitcoin. Plenty of room to the upside if it's going to go and get anywhere back to its highs. But
yeah, she's still a big Eiffel Tower to climb, isn't it?
Yeah, she's still a long way to go. Long way to go. But maybe we're just starting to see some green shoots of recovery down here.
Who knows, mate? Won't bother me one little bit. But those who are long, then I wish you all the very best. I hope it does go for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the FTSE. So the FTSE has proved to respect the rest of the world markets, and it's respected this particular pattern here. So it actually looks like we could get a half decent move now today to the downside. We're probably looking a little bit like you, actually, mate. We're still in a move to the upside, aren't we? We're still bullish on the market. You're bullish on the euro. I'm bullish on the FTSE. We're still bullish on these markets. So I've got the same question that you will have: is whether to go long today or whether to wait until Monday. If it comes back into actually some levels that I want to trade it at. But it is an issue, because this is the first point of call. We bring this onto a daily chart. That's still a little bit shallow from the price point that I was discussing earlier on. quite a bit. You know, it's very, very shallow actually. But you know, is the manufacturing enough to kind of get it down here? Well, going on this bar it is. But going on the other news that we've had to make us go back to this up to this point, does it just become a little bit of an opportunity for the bulls to kind of kick back in? And I suspect it will. You know, buyers will come into this area. The question really from that point is, are they strong enough to push it back up again, or do we then start to see just a little bit of distribution going on here? So I suppose given that, then we've got to look for the buying opportunity around about 40 pips below. And maybe take profit, you know, as the market pushes forward, because Donald Trump is potentially going to be signing a trade deal in May, and that would suggest that there's still some room to the upside with this one. So we'll see how it goes, mate. I'd love a decent retracement here. I do want to go long, but I don't really want this level, but I might. And just to finish up there, market breadth is currently 68% to the downside. So the bears are in charge. So look for more selling off here.
Yeah, Euros just about got to that level I was speaking about, mate. DS2.
Okay.
And 112.50. Interesting day thus far.
Brilliant. Okay, well, I can have a look at that as well. All right, buddy. Well, enjoy the rest of your afternoon and the rest of your weekend. We're obviously not here on Monday because it is a public holiday.
Yes, indeed. Big break. Mate, have a wonderful time. Enjoy Easter, and don't give the daughter too many chocolate things.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'll be eating most of those. Hopefully, we'll see how it goes. And to everyone else as well, enjoy your break, guys, and we will speak to you next Tuesday. Have a good one. And we'll be back, same trade time, same trade channel.
Cheers, mate. I'm off to, I'm closing my charts now. Going to take a bit of profit on both of those trades, and then I'm off to the neighbours for a little Easter cocktail.
Oh, very nice, mate. Very nice. Enjoy.
Will do. Have a good one, everyone. Bye-bye.